Are we good, STLTV?
Now we are.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will again take two. Call today's Housing, Urban Development, and Zoning Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone, Alderwoman Swipe.
Present.
Oh, Alderman Cone, okay. Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Present.
Vice Chair Sonier,
Present.
Alderman Browning,
Present.
Alderman Aldridge,
Present.
Chair Clerk Hubbard.
Here.
We have 6 present, we have a quorum.
All right, with that, I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes from Thursday, January 28th, 2025.
So move.
Second.
It was moved by Alderman Aldridge and seconded by Alderwoman Schweitzer. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone,
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sonier,
Aye.
Alderman Browning,
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge,
Aye.
Chair Clerk Hubbard.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes.
Okay, with that, we've successfully approved the minutes from Thursday, January 28th, 2025. We'll move to agenda item number 1, board bills for review. Board bill number 165. Madam Clerk, can you please read the summary?
Board Bill number 165, introduced by Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard, an ordinance determining that the tax increment finance plans listed in Exhibit A are making satisfactory progress, except as noted under the proposed time schedule for completion of projects therein.
Thank you so much. With me today, I have Zach Wilson and Madeline Swanstrom from SLDC, as well as others. They are here to present, do this public presentation, which has also been publicly noticed on the tax increment financing plans and how they have been working out for us, right? And so with that, I'll ask Ms. Swanstrom to share her screen and begin the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Right. Okay. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So due to state statute, according to state statute, we must hold a public hearing 5 years after approval of each TIF plan and every 5 years thereafter to determine if a project is making satisfactory progress. So that's why we're here today. And as required by the statute, a notice of the February 4th public hearing was placed in the daily record for 4 weeks, the weeks of January 11th, 18th, and 25th, and February 1st, 2025. Required by the statute, a notice of the annual statement, copy attached regarding all approved TIF projects, was published in the daily record on January 11th, 18th, 25th, and February 1st. Weeks. Attached to the board bill is the financial status of active or retired projects having a 20-year anniversary, together with a list of the retired or terminated projects having a 25-year anniversary in 2024. This summary provides brief information about each of the projects. Further, the city must prepare and send to the state an annual report for each approved TIF project that has not been retired or terminated. These reports have been prepared by the staff of SLDC and the comptroller and submitted to the state by the required deadline of November 15th, 2024.
Okay, so I'm just going to do a couple of slides and then we're going to give it back to Madeline. But this is just kind of an overview of the history of TIFs, and you know, there's been 146 redevelopment plans approved and established. But that doesn't necessarily always lead to an executed redevelopment agreements. We've had 124 executed redevelopment agreements. 50 of these TIFs have been retired or terminated. Retired meaning paid off early or reached their maturity date. Terminated can have various reasons. The majority of active projects have been completed. You know, some of these are really old. Some are partially complete. Maybe there was a phase that got completed and another phase hasn't been, and then a few that are currently under construction or were as of the time that we reported. Let's go to the next slide. And this is, I think, a helpful chart that people like to see. You know, this is the TIFs approved by calendar year, and we just have active or retired, so not terminated. But the red being retired, so you can see obviously a lot of the older TIFs have been retired. A lot of TIFs were approved in the 2000s, and you know, we'll talk about a few of those today. Some have been retired, some have paid off early, and then more, you know, in the next few years should retire. So a lot less active TIFs will be out there.
Okay, so first we'll go through the 25-year anniversary projects. There are two 25-year anniversary projects for 2024. Both have been retired. Center for Emerging Technologies, that special allocation fund was dissolved on 1/23/2015 by ordinance 69903. And condominiums at 110 North Newstead, that special allocation fund is dissolved January 28th, 2013 by ordinance 69365. Projects, we have 23 of those. First is Convention Plaza Apartments. This project involved the historic renovation of an apartment building with 48 units in downtown at 1300 Convention Plaza, now the Crown downtown. The $525 TIF note will mature in 2027. The unpaid principal amount is $899,000. Next, we have Adler Loft Condominiums. This was another downtown project at 21 to 211 Washington Avenue, renovated into a 5-story, $52,000 square foot property with 32 loft condo units with commercial space and related parking. The $939,151 TIF note will mature in 2027. The unpaid principal amount is $758,151. University Lofts, formerly Warehouse and Fixtures. This project involved the renovation of 7 buildings totaling 340,000 square feet into 200 loft apartment units, commercial uses, and related parking at 3706 58 Laclede Avenue and 3701 41 Forest Park Boulevard in Midtown St. Louis, immediately south of St. Louis University. The $6 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $4.5 million. Washington East condominiums, I will note that there is an error on the slide that was sent out, so we will send out a corrected version. This project renovated 4 loft buildings at 901 Washington Avenue, 1001 Washington Avenue, and 1010 Lucas Street for retail, office, and residential condos with parking. The $8 million TIF note will mature in 2027. The unpaid principal amount is $6.9 million. Mississippi Place. This project developed townhouses that were developed at the southeast corner of Mississippi Avenue and Lafayette Avenue. The $863,100 TIF note will mature in 2027. The unpaid principal amount is $413,000. Next is the Marquette Building. This project involved the rehab of the Marquette Building on Broadway in downtown into 119 apartments, now condominiums. The $4.5 million TIF note will mature in 2027. The unpaid principal amount is $3.7 million. Next is the Meridian Building. This project involved the renovation of a 9-story A.D. Brown building for 89 condominiums with ground floor commercial and related parking. This $3.5 million TIF note will mature in 2027. The unpaid principal amount is $3.2 million. Next is Dogtown Walk 2. For this project, a private street of 6915 to 29 Waldemar Avenue was developed with 10 new houses. The $434,500 TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $336,000. Next is East Bank Lofts. This project consists of commercial spaces on the first floor and residential rental units on floors 3 through 8, and 15 parking spaces located underneath the building. The $1.5 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $1.5 million. Next is the Pet Building, 400. This project consists of the conversion of the Pet Building, formerly a vacant commercial building, into 118 residential units and approximately 8,500 square feet of commercial usage. The $3.2 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $3 million. Next, we have Willie's Overland Building, or NSI. Located at 2300 Locust, this was also a historic rehabilitation and occupied as an office building by NSI. The project resulted in $155,000 square feet of office space. The $1.5 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is about $1.5 million. Next is Moon Brothers Carriage Lofts. This project involved the renovation of the 5-story Moon Brothers Carriage Lofts building in downtown West into 40 condominiums. The $1.5 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is about $1.5 million. Next is Ventana Lofts at 1635 Washington Avenue. This project involved the rehabilitation of the historic 9-story Central Shoe Building into apartments at 1207 Washington Avenue. The $2.4 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $1.8 million. Next, we have 3949 Lindell Apartments. This project redeveloped the properties located at 3949 Lindell Boulevard, 4012 McPherson Avenue, and 4006 McPherson Avenue in Midtown St. Louis into 256 apartments with commercial space on the first floor. The $3 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $848,000. Next is Westtown Lots. This project anticipates the development of approximately 80 residential condominium units, 3 penthouse loft condominium units, and 24,000 square feet of commercial space at 2201 Washington Avenue and 2211 Lucas Avenue. The $2.5 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $2.2 million. Next is Eli Walker Lofts. This project consists of the conversion of a 7-story building into 168 residential units, commercial space, and parking. The $3 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $5.5 million. Next is Packard Lofts. This project consists of renovating and rehabilitating the existing 4-story building in development of 35 residential condominium units with first floor retail. The $1.3 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $1.1 million. Next is Southside National Bank. This project consists of the conversion of the National Bank building at Grand and Gravois into commercial space and residential units. The building now hosts the Noble, an event space often used for weddings. The $1.4 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $1.4 million. Next is the B-Hat building. This renovation of the historic B-Hat building features first floor commercial space and 36 one-bedroom market rate apartments. The $1.4 million TIF note will mature in 2028. The unpaid principal amount is $1.2 million. Bottle District. This was proposed as a mixed-use project, including new construction and historic rehabilitation of the Bottle District. It was combined with North Side, but never implemented. Next, we have Gaslight Square East. This project area is directly east of Gaslight Square in the 4100 block of Olive Street between Whittier and Sarah Streets in Midtown St. Louis. The TIF supported the construction of 44 townhouses and a lot for condominium development, in addition to 2 buildings for later development. The TIF note was paid off early and the special allocation fund was dissolved March 14th, 2024 by Ordinance 71784. Next, we have Loughborough Commons. This project includes the development of a $40 million, 230,000 square foot retail center, creating an estimated 61 jobs. The $9 million TIF note was paid off early, and the special allocation fund was dissolved by Ordinance 71784 on March 14th, 2024. And finally, we have Automobile Row at 3100 Locust, RPA 1 and 2. This project includes scattered properties in the 3000 and 3100 blocks of Locust Street and Washington Avenue, also known as Midtown Alley. The $4.8 million TIF resulted in approximately $60 million of investment in that area. The TIF has been paid off and retired, and the special allocation fund was dissolved by Ordinance 69903 on January 23rd, 2015. So next we have the 15-year anniversary projects. We only have 4 of those this year. First is Carondelet South, or District 2, Carondelet School. This project consists of the rehabilitation of the former Carondelet School into classroom and meeting room uses for Grace Hill Community Center at 8201 Minnesota Avenue in the Carondelet neighborhood of South St. Louis. The $146,500 TIF note will mature in 2032. The unpaid principal amount is $135,500. Next, we have Greenleaf Market, which was a Northside regeneration project. So far, only Zoom Convenience Store, Greenleaf Market, and HealthWorks Hospital have been completed. Went from the total $8 billion project, which was proposed by the developer in 2009. The $2.8 million TIF note will mature in 2032. The unpaid principal amount is $513,200. Next is 1111 Olive. This $11.75 million, 110,000 square foot office renovation was completed and occupied by Infomedia Pierpoint Inc. in 2011. The project has created 84 jobs. The $2.4 million TIF note will mature in 2033. The unpaid principal amount is $2.4 million. The Railway Exchange Building. This 1.2 million square foot building was proposed as a 111 million two-phase project. Phase 1 was completed in 2010 with the renovation of floors 1 through 4 for Macy's. However, Macy's closed shortly thereafter. Hudson Holdings acquired the building and proposed a $300 million mixed-use project, but nothing has happened to date. The TIF amount was $27.8 million. The $9.2 million TIF note will mature in 2033. The unpaid principal amount is $9.2 million. Next, we have the 10-year anniversary project, so two of those. First is Union Station Phase 2. Hotel renovations constituted Phase 1, which was not in the TIF area. The $187 million Phase 2 includes the 120,000 square foot aquarium, the 200 feet high Ferris wheel, the 18-hole mini golf course, the mirror maze, the ropes course, the carousel, the sky rail, and 3 restaurants. The $18.6 million TIF note is scheduled to expire in 2038, and the unpaid principal amount is $16 million. Next is Ackerman Toyota at I-44 in Hampton. This TIF supported the completed Ackerman Toyota dealership at the cost of $18 million. The TIF amount is $5.1 million. This resulted in an estimated 70 new jobs. The $5.3 million TIF note is scheduled to expire in 2038. The unpaid principal amount is $4.3 million. Next, we have 5-year anniversary projects. We have 2 of those projects. First is Forest Park TOD or Expo One Developer. This project was built on a former Metrolink park and ride lot next to the Forest Park Developer Metro Station. The transit-oriented development includes first floor commercial space and approximately 290 apartments on the upper floors, along with subsurface and structured parking. There is a Starbucks in one of the commercial spaces. The TIF amount is $5.1 million. At the end of fiscal year 2024, no notes had yet been issued for the project. Construction is complete. 900 North Tucker, again, there's an error on the slide that we sent out previously, so we will send a corrected slide. But this project consists of the redevelopment of the large former postage batch building with high visibility on the northern edge of downtown. The developer proposed a historic rehab of the property with a mix of uses, including office space and ground floor retail spaces. The anchor office tenant is Square, with office space available for a new tech business incubator, now Accelerator. The project has created 719 jobs. The $11.2 million TIF note is scheduled to expire in 2042, and the unpaid principal amount is $11.2 million. Now we'll go through TIFs that are celebrating an anniversary that have been terminated. So there are 3 of those. First is the Switzer Building, which involved the proposed renovation of the Switzer Building in Macleod's Landing. The project was authorized up to $1 million in TIF notes. However, the building, which had deteriorated significantly throughout the decades, was destroyed by a storm on July 21st, 2006. The TIF was terminated and the special allocation fund dissolved by Ordinance 68549 on December 11th, 2009. I-70 in Goodfellow. This project proposed the redevelopment of the former St. Louis Army Ammunition Plant or SLAP site for commercial uses. The project was canceled. The TIF was terminated and the special allocation fund was dissolved by Ordinance 69072 on December 22nd, 2011. Next, we have 500 North Kings Highway. This project involved the proposed redevelopment of a former church at Kings Highway Boulevard and Washington Avenue in the Central West End. The project was canceled and the TIF was terminated. The special allocation fund was dissolved by Ordinance 70407 on December 2nd, 2016. Now we have the retired TIFs that are celebrating a 5-year anniversary. That includes the Center for Emerging Technologies. This project encompassed the expansion of an existing incubator for technology-based entities, with the existing building being 38,500 square feet, and the expansion of 50,000 square feet and improved parking. The project was completed and the TIF was retired. Special allocation fund was dissolved by ordinance 70696 effective January 27th, 2018. Another retired TIF was Automobile Row RPA 1 and 2. This project consisted of the renovation of 18 different main properties in Midtown Alley on Locust Street, a mix of residential and commercial uses. Project is completed and the TIF was retired, with the special allocation fund being dissolved by ordinance 69903 effective January 23rd, 2015. Park Ridge Estates was a project that consisted of 56 new single-family homes and townhouses along new streets off of 5700 Arsenal Street. The $1.3 million TIF note was retired and the special allocation fund was dissolved by ordinance 71090 on February 2nd, 2020. 110 North Newstead condominiums. This 12-unit project was constructed at the corner of Newstead and West Pine using a $400,000 TIF note. The TIF has been paid off and retired, and the special allocation fund was dissolved by ordinance 69365 on December 14th, 2012. Gaslight Square East was a project that supported public improvements along the street where 52 new single-family homes and townhouses were developed and a 4,000 square foot commercial building renovated on the 4100 block of Olive Street. The $1.7 million TIF note was paid off early, and the special allocation fund was dissolved by ordinance 71784 on March 14th, 2024. Loughborough Commons, again, this project consisted of the development of a $40 million, 230,000 square foot retail center, creating an estimated 61 jobs. The $9 million TIF note was paid off early and the special allocation fund dissolved by ordinance 71784 on March 14th, 2024. So now I'll hand it back over to Andrew.
And so really not a lot to say here. This is, kind of some more detail about all the tips that we presented today. We can answer questions about any of them. One note is that when we sent this out originally, and we corrected it here, but some of the TIFs, when they are retired, technically, the language says terminated. So some of those were sitting in the terminated section that got moved down to retired, which is so just something to note. But really that's it. So Madeline, do you want to close it, or should we just see if there's any questions?
Yes, that's all. And then we'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Andrew, please charge it to my head, not my heart. I didn't see you on here at first.
No
To
problem.
recognize you when I first said Madeline and Zach were here. So what we'll do is see if any of our colleagues, if my colleagues have any questions before we enter into public comment. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Slicer.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the presentation. One of the things I thought was really interesting was the, you said Bottle District, which I hadn't heard a lot about that project. So I don't want to spend a ton of time, talking about a project that didn't happen, but I've always been really interested about what was going on there. So maybe another time I can talk with you about the history of that project. And thank you so much for this, because it's always just really interesting to hear about it. So thank you for the presentation and for being diligent in following the state laws surrounding these presentations.
Thank you. And yes, I'm not as familiar with the history, but I know a few people on staff certainly are, Rob, Zach, and they can talk to me more about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Slicer. Alderman Browning.
Thank you. Really appreciate the presentation. And, it appears to me there's been a lot of really great historical buildings that we've been able to save using this tool. And it also appears to me that there's been a couple that have not worked out, but that is how these things go sometimes. But there's been plenty that really have and contributed back to our city. So I'm excited to see that. Did want to follow up on a couple things. Circling back to the grocery store by Northside Regeneration. That we've heard a lot of information about that as far as what a failure it's been and how it hasn't really served the community. Can you expand a little more at where the incentive package for that is right now and what's going on?
Sure. Zach, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, actually the TIF amount for that project, it was actually paying off pretty well, which we see when there's a heavy sales tax use at a location. Problem is I think the amount remaining is a little over $500,000. Is that correct, Madeline?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. So that's what's remaining on those TIF notes at that location. So we're hoping that we get some type of similar use, that those TIF notes would be paid off pretty quickly, because those TIF notes haven't been active very long. So if we find the right occupant for that establishment, we'd be fine, to be honest with you.
So it's not a failure yet. It's just we're just trying to find a new occupant for the space.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So even though I might just add real quick, even though the business failed, the note was issued in 2019, nearly a $3 million note, and there's only 500,000 left. So it was making pretty good progress at paying that off. So, potentially if there's another user found, that could be, work out well.
What we have learned from our past mistakes is do not use TIFs on residential, use TIFs on heavy commercial use. So restaurants, grocery stores, those type of things pay off TIFs at a rapid rate. So.
In my understanding, just for people at home, my understanding that TIFs are generally used when there's also a lot of infrastructure work that needs to be done. Is that kind of a good description of them?
Very, very much so. The last ones Madeline presented was the Devolver TIF, which created a massive garage for a park and ride type of establishment for Bi-State or Metrolink, whatever we want to call it today. But that's what we look to use TIFs for also.
And part of the reason for that is that TIF note, the note itself actually allows the developer, if they choose, to monetize that up front. So a lot of times, the infrastructure cost or a parking garage or whatever, you need kind of capital up front to make that happen. Tax abatement just, makes expenses over time cheaper. This allows them to kind of do some heavier work that doesn't generate revenue upfront done and then pay it off over time.
Thank you. That's an excellent description. On that note, switching to another project you described, the expo at Forest Park in DeBoliver, you had mentioned that they have not issued a TIF note for that project yet. Can you explain why that might be? I'm kind of confused if they needed that and that TIF note was could then be applied to, like Andrew just described, help them build. What's going on with that project?
Well, they're allowed to still issue the TIF notes, but if they do not wish to, they don't have to. That means most likely they may not want to pursue it at this point. We also we're waiting for minority compliance and prevailing wage to be cleared on that, so that might be an issue too. So I can get back to you on that piece.
Appreciate that. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate the update and don't have any more questions.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Alderman Browning. Alderman Aldridge.
No questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Vice Chair Sanye.
No question. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just realized, had we been in person, Vice Chair Sanye would have been leading the question. So I apologize. I didn't mean to step over. I'm just on.
No worries.
So I guess with that now did Alderman Cone? I want to circle back to him before I'm trying to see if he's still on. I don't want to skip over him. Okay, what we'll do now is go into public comment.
We
I
do
guess
have
we can stop
Mr.
sharing
Connolly
the
online.
as well. Huh?
We have Mr. Connolly online.
Yes, so we just have the one signed up to speak.
Yes.
Okay, are we still sharing this screen on SL? Okay, there we go. Okay. Mr. Conley, can you turn your camera on and raise your right hand? Good morning, Mr. Conley.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. You swear to tell the
Likewise.
whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay. Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. This is a fascinating topic. And I'm just wondering if it would be possible is there going to be some kind of committee sub or amendment to correct? I guess my question on SLDC is whether the information in the slides that has changed, is that actually in Exhibit A, the big spreadsheet? So question, for Zach or Madeline on that one. Alderman Browning touched on one of my questions, or one of my concerns was regarding Northside Regeneration. And I think there's a, big accountability issue here, in terms of what is our measure of success? Is success just getting the TIF note paid off before 23 years? Or, how are we measuring whether Northside succeeds or not? And, they received their reimbursement for the eligible expenses for, I believe, for Greenleaf, for the gas station, and for the HealthWorks facility. But in terms of just looking at the property records, Northside didn't pay off the property taxes on Greenleaf and Zoom. They were 2 to 3 years delinquent, and they didn't pay them off until 2024. I believe the HealthWorks facility is the only one where they've kind of kept the payments going. And I'm real curious as to what level of detail SLDC received in terms of the end of project documentation, because, I've seen online some folks who follow construction very closely question the development cost on the HealthWorks facility, which I believe was topped $20 million. And this person who posted a lot on X, formerly known as Twitter, did research into other hospital facilities and kind of felt that, square footage wise and features, that $20 million seemed excessive. So I think there's more due diligence needed in the reporting, and I'd love to hear back from SLDC regarding that particular project. A couple of other things stood out on that list. I believe there was at least one project that the folks over at Lux Living, are the Eli Walker building, they control the condo association and own over half the units. I don't know their status on paying their taxes, but again, in terms of what the outcome is, my understanding is that, the condos that sold, those owners have lost, huge portions of their equity. And, both they and tenants have, major quality of life issues with disruption at the property, and then also
Mr. Conley, that's your time.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna allow him to finish. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
So I think there's a, more accountability, more documentation needs to be shared publicly. I've noticed as well that the older SLDC website, some of the content's been removed on older TIF applications. And I'm wondering if on the new site, we could actually have an archive documenting the applications for these projects. And on TIFs, there's a provision where, the public can go down to SLDC, and I did do this once, I think on the Armory, and review the developer application. And unfortunately, that material doesn't go online, and I understand there could be portions of it redacted. And, SLDC's built out a developer portal. I believe the goal is to have all incentive projects, submit their applications through that. But again, I think, the public should be able to see, the core of that application. And, with the Northside Grant Program, after a lot of scrutiny, SLDC put application material online. And I think to be fair across the board, we need to be doing that with applications for incentives. And then my final point is, I think this spreadsheet would serve the public better and yourselves as elected officials to disclose what other incentives were allocated. A number of those projects, had taxing districts with them specific to the site. I want to, thank Alderwoman Schweitzer for her role in, getting the Lockborough Commons SID terminated when their obligations, had been fulfilled. But, a project like Square, that had the Golden Corral buffet of incentives. And I don't think any of them were needed, basically. They've got a SID, they had their sales tax exemption, they got PACE financing, I believe. And then they also have, I believe, some form of earnings and payroll tax reimbursement. And I'm really curious as to, I believe the figure cited on jobs was over 700. Are you getting annual jobs reports, and how many jobs are actually there on site? I think that information will be very helpful to have. So that concludes my comments. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Mr. Conley. Mr. Wilson?
Yes, thank you. First, I guess I'll start with the jobs requirements. Our Madeline, who has just presented this PowerPoint, is our compliance officer who does the yearly jobs reports, requires the jobs reports turned into us every year. She's doing a great job. I think Madeline, correct me if I'm wrong, we're at 90-something% on applicants turning their paperwork in. So we are tracking them, Mr. Conley. The other piece, this report that we just shared with you is just sharing how the TIF notes are performing. I totally agree with you on many things you have stated about Northside regeneration. Some of those things I cannot go into in a public meeting with you about because there's some sticky stuff going on other things. But yes, the TIF notes for those 3 projects for this grocery store and gas station are performing well because sales tax. Are they possibly not paying proper tax? You are correct. But those things, this report is just for this meeting the state statute and sharing that information with the public. The SLDC website has been updated. We are transferring many things over to the new website. We're trying to be more transparent. You go on our website, you can see the TIF map, what active TIFs we have, retired TIFs, never approved TIFs. Please, any suggestions in the future, we'll be happy to put that to our website team to move forward. So no, we're here to listen. So if you have anything, Mr. Conley, please send me the emails like you usually do. So thank you so much.
We definitely have plans for a lot of the online tool things where you can see all the different incentives. It's just, as you can probably appreciate, it's difficult to go back 20 years in some case and get things out of paper files and somehow get that good and standardized. So
we have you are seeing net, so 67% of the incentives team. So hopefully in the next summer, this summer coming up, we have a team of interns. We can do a lot of this work. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to Mr. Conley also for his attention, right, to this and being on this public space to be able to elevate it. And now we can use it, as Mr. Wilson said, as recommendations and moving forward. That's the value in having these public hearings like this. With that, Madam Clerk, are there any additional public speakers?
That was the only speaker.
Okay, thank you. Did any of my colleagues on the committee have any follow-up comments? Okay. All right.
Alderwoman
Yes.
Hubbard, Chair, we do not have to pass this out. All we had to do is hear this report. So
I think I mean, we're in a position, unless my colleagues have any additional questions or comments, I think we're in position to go ahead and call for a vote, if you're okay with that.
Yes, that's fine. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's fine. I mean, I know we were on a little bit of a time constraint, but I'm glad we were able to get this information out to the public. So with that, I will now close and ask for my colleagues' favorable consideration and due pass recommendation for Board Bill 165.
I move that we make a due pass recommendation for Board Bill 165.
Second,
Second.
it was moved by Alderwoman Schweitzer, seconded by Alderman Browning. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone,
Present.
Alderwoman Switzer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Saunier,
Aye.
Alderman Browning,
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge, Chair Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. We have 4 aye votes, 1 voting present.
All right, with that, we successfully passed Board Bill 165. Thank you, and thank you SLDC for being here this morning as well. Do we have any resolutions for review?
We have none.
Any committee discussion?
We have none.
Any written testimony?
We have none.
Any of my colleagues, do you have any announcements? Okay, all members were present this morning, so with that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Schweitzer, seconded by Alderman Browning. We are adjourned. Everyone have a blessed day. Everyone, I'm sure everyone would say aye, and everyone have a blessed day.
Thank you.